Alecia, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How did you get into music?
Well, my dad's a band director, and my mom was a choir director.
Right.
And so I grew up singing and playing instruments. And then my dad needed an oboist in his band. And it also kind of fit my personality, so I became an oboist. And then I wound up at Juilliard for my schooling, and it was just one of those things that I originally wanted to be a science major, but wound up as an oboist.
So where did you grow up?
In Van, Texas, a tiny town by Tyler.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I've been to Tyler, around that area.
Well, Van is actually two syllables. Van. It's pronounced in Texas, so yeah.
So oboist.
Yes.
How did you get to Juilliard?
Oh, it's kind of funny, but I was at SMU for physics, actually, as a physics major, and then I went to oboe. And then I auditioned at Juilliard. It's a very funny story, actually. Well, if you don't mind, I'll tell you the story. It's quite a funny one. My husband and I were engaged, and we went to New York to let him apply for a job, and I was auditioning for another school in that city. And I just didn't know much about New York City. And so we were touring on a Sunday, and on Tuesday my audition was, and we were flying out. Well, on Sunday, we toured around Lincoln Center, and I said, oh, wow, that's a beautiful place. And look, there's Juilliard. That's a really great place. So I walked into the entrance at the time, and this guard was there. And he's like, we're not open on Sundays. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. I'll get some information. And there was a chair in the doorway that said, don't come in. We're not open. So I went in, of course. And out of my mouth comes, I want to audition for your school. And this lady said, well, what do you play? And I said, oboe. And she said, it's funny you mentioned that we just had a cancellation for oboe on Tuesday. Do you think you can make that? And it was perfect timing, perfect timing. And it turns out she was head of admissions, and I had to spend all Monday looking at the music because it was different music. And so it was just one of these God moments where I was supposed to go to Juilliard.
That's incredible. Do you have other friends that went to Juilliard? Or?
Many. And actually this orchestra that I started, the River Oaks Chamber Orchestra, ROCO is what we call it, ROCO, is made up of a lot of my friends that were at Juilliard. When I formed this orchestra, I thought of all the great people who smile on stage also, and who take chances on stage and make me, inspire me. And a lot of them were at Juilliard with me and are dispersed among the nations. And so half the orchestra in ROCO doesn't live in Houston. We fly them in to perform. Incredible. Yeah. So half of them live here and half of them don't. And we have them all come in on Wednesday. We do the concert opening on Saturday, and then we repeat. Thrilled to be here in Conroe on a Sunday night.
That's incredible. So how far away do some of these musicians come?
New York.
They come from New York?
Oh, yeah, Vancouver. One guy's from New Zealand, but he's based in New York. Our harpist was from Germany, but she's going to stay there now. So, just anywhere where it takes a really unique player to play in ROCO. They have to smile while on stage, and they do because of who they are. They have to be at the highest level artistically because all of my principals solo. We don't really have guest soloists. To have this pianist come in is really unusual for us.
Interesting.
So, yeah, different model.
Well, and when I read about ROCO, it sounded like you guys have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. The most
which
fun
is good, right?
Have, right? Yeah. Life's too short,
So, obviously, a lot of them are your friends.
Yes.
So they have the same type of temperament. And they've talked about your particular temperament, wanting people that have fun.
Yes.
But does it take chances? That was kind of an odd comment, too. What do you mean by that when you see that?
I just think that a lot of times in classical music, we're so obsessed with making a CD in some ways instead of doing a live performance. And many times when you've seen rock and roll guys live, and they don't necessarily really try to make a CD. They try to make it in the moment. And I think that's really lost in classical music, and we'd rediscover that. I invite my musicians to take a chance to play as soft as they possibly can on the places you're supposed to. And if the note cracks, at least you tried, but we don't crack it very often. As a matter of fact, our live performances are broadcast nationally. We've been broadcast 43 times on American Public Radio and NPR Performance Today. So, yeah.
So, taking these chances, having fun. When I played a band, again, we weren't very good, but when we played in a high school band, I think the most fun we had was when we were just doing improv. Let's just jam, and we could go for an hour. And if you had a really good bass guitar, that you could improv for a while. It doesn't mean that you'd want anyone to hear it necessarily, but at the level that you're at, do you guys ever do improv too?
Improv is a whole nother realm. It's a whole different way. We are really ultimate actors, interpreters of composers. I guess is how you would say that. Okay. There are many of the group, I have to say, though, do improv and do play jazz as well. But all of us are classically trained musicians at the highest level in our field. But we have that joie de vivre that is in jazz concerts.
Right.
Our concerts are not printed in order of the program. They're printed in alphabetical order. So we tell you what we're going to play next. So it does have a jazz feel to the concert, and just a more of a come on the journey with us experience.
Right. Do you ever change on the fly depending on how the response is by the audience?
No, but when I first started it, I did it traditionally. You print the program and you play it. But so many times during the rehearsal week, we would just get a sense that, you know what, this piece would be so much better after this.
Sure.
We also have surprise pieces that aren't on the program. We have a piece where audience members get to sit in the orchestra while we play. So there's just a true interactive sense about it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yes.
How did you form ROCO?
Well, okay. So I've been a part of other startups that were really great ideas here in Houston. And my church, St. John the Divine, was renovating. And when I saw the renditions, I realized an orchestra should fit there and should be there. It can seat 600, old Frank Lloyd Wright style building.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful acoustics. Everything they did was for the acoustics. And that's when I said, okay, if I'm going to start an orchestra, I want to have people I want to play with.
Right.
That's where that started.
Sure.
And then I said, okay, well, why don't we have 5 o'clock concerts on Saturday? Because it's before everything else. You still get to go to dinner by 7.
Right.
That kind of fits inside people's busy lives. And just all the different components that make ROCO so different and unique.
When you went to Juilliard, obviously you worked on your technique. That's a given. What about the business side? Just because you have a degree in it doesn't mean you're ready to start a business.
There's a huge side to it. My husband's a business person, but at the same time, again, I've been a part of 3 groups and seen them all different facets of the organizations. I find it wonderful to have the business side equal the artistic, and we have a general manager that is brilliant at that. And I think a piece of it for artists is to know what you don't know.
Right.
And if you do know what you don't know, then you will tend to seek that out.
Right.
We do it very minuscule and myopically in our own performances and our own piece of how maybe I can't figure out how to play that phrase in school, and I'll seek out that knowledge. But I think when you're forming a group, you also have to say, you know what, I can't do accounting. I need to have an accountant.
Sure.
But even more detailed than that, forming a board, operating under your bylaws, things that I just never learned. You don't learn that in schools. And so now schools have these entrepreneurialism and arts classes.
Yes.
SMU's doing a brilliant job of that. And Juilliard's starting to do that. And so I've traveled around to schools. Yale has a brilliant one. And I traveled around talking about this project and how it was started and all the different pieces to it.
Wow.
So I'm encouraging the performing artists to understand the business side of it, because nowadays you have to.
Absolutely. So how long have you guys been around?
8 years.
It's incredible.
I know.
And you've had in some pretty hard times, actually, for the arts.
But yes, what we sailed through them, we have grown bigger and bigger every year, and it's every person in the orchestra is a full-time professional musician.
Absolutely.
With huge solo careers or professorships or something. But the orchestra itself is a full-time entity.
Right.
We play 8 main concerts a year with the 40, and then the rest of the time we actually have 34 concerts this year.
Wow.
The rest of the time we have groups that have broken out, like we have a brass quintet and our string quartet that have broken out kind of like a Lego model, where the orchestra is built into 40, and then you have other groups that break out from that and have their own series. So our string quartet has a series at University of St. Thomas, and our brass quintet has its own series throughout the city. So we have, I consider them, I guess, droid ships before the mothership comes. But that's the kind of concept that we do. And then we present our players in solo recital at Grammy on Art Gallery. We don't do parties or weddings or things like that, because it's just a different type of performance. It's a main event performance. And we do things that, like we did a beer and brass inside St. Arnold's Brewery, but it was two sets of music, not just, you didn't have to watch them drink. You drink the beer and then they play.
So, over this 8-year journey.
Yes.
Way to say it. What would you, it's an interesting journey. What would you tell other folks that want to do something similar?
That you find the people on both sides. You find the passionate artists, and that's where it stems from. Because what people see on stage and see and viscerally experience matters. Then you find the people that connect to that particular thing. It's your audience is not a blind black slate out there. That's actually why we keep the house lights up on our concerts. I want to see my people that I play for.
You want to see the reaction?
Yes, yes. I feed off that. I feed off that, and I just think that's so great. But I just think that there is a connection there, that personal connection that has started to, it's been severed over the years in classical music, where it's more about the dead composers than about the live musicians on the stage. And there's this great article that was written because, 12 American orchestras did not start their season this year because they were in strikes. I know. Okay?
Strikes? Yeah. As opposed to going out of business. Because I also read about the groups that have gone out of business.
Well, exactly. That too. Yeah. That too.
It's sad.
So this management versus musician has come about for many, many, many different reasons.
Right.
But the situation is that if you can make that personal connection, and there was this great article about the commoditization of orchestras.
Yes.
Meaning that boards might have an idea that a position in an orchestra can be filled by anyone out there.
Right.
Instead, knowing that it's actually unique that I play the oboe in this orchestra, or that Danielle is our horn player, or that Matt is the viola. It matters. That's different.
I think that's where there's definitely a tension between the business concepts. We teach, again, about commoditization of people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You're an engineer. Oh, you can, and you have these skills. Okay, you can fill that spot.
Yes.
But they forget about there is this interaction, the team.
Yes, exactly.
And it has to work together.
And sports analogies. They would never think that Biggio is replaceable or Manning.
Absolutely.
Right.
They have to work together as a team. And maybe this person is great individually, but for this particular team, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Just amazing.
Yes.
And we still miss the concept. What are you doing now?
Yes, thank you. We are opening our 8th season, and we are so excited to come up to Conroe for the first time.
Thank you for coming to the Crighton.
I know. I'm really excited because Susie Pokorski, I've known her for so long.
Oh, really? That's how you know her. Okay.
It's so great to know that we're coming up here because of her in a lot of ways. But the idea, I had a small theater in my hometown, and this is bigger and very well done.
Yes.
The restoration is beautiful. But I just have memories of performing in that space and how just precious it was to the city, to the town, to the people, and just the history. You can just feel it around you.
It's amazing. I mean, this same stage is Grace. I mean, Debbie Reynolds has been on the stage. Vince Gill.
Yes.
And now ROCO. And now ROCO. The names go on and on. And so when people get on that stage, they go, wow, this is great. And yes, it needs, TLC, a lot of care and feeding, but so does every place.
That's right.
And the arts, especially now, it's like we're under pressure. We joke about, we're competing with Xboxes and our phones.
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. I see so many people walking their dogs with their phone. I mean, that the dog gets to go out, but that's it. And I agree with that. I've always said that, arts tend to compete against each other, but that's not at all what we are about. We collaborate with so many arts groups in town. Our competition is a glass of wine and Netflix. Truly.
Yes.
Well, maybe not Netflix anymore.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, it's true.
Well,
that's right. I don't feel like going out. We've had a lot of people say that. It's Friday night. I'm tired. I don't feel like going out. And you have to get over that. You convince them to get over that inertia.
Exactly.
Come see a live show. It is different than watching the TV.
Free iPhones. Something crazy.
Well, unfortunately, we see a lot of them light up here. iPads, iPhone. You tell them, please turn off your iPhones, iPads, or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter. They still light up.
I know.
They light up the whole place. It's just incredible.
I know. Well, maybe we'll come up with something that will make them light them up on purpose. So
when you're not doing music, what do you like to do?
At this point in the past 7 years, I've really just been able to do this because the amount of work it takes to raise the kind of funds that we have to have for this, and the amount of media and things like this, which is a wonderful. Thank you so much for this interview. I love to play tennis, and we sail and wine and things like that.
Right.
But I have 2 boys as well.
Oh, yes.
My husband's deeply involved, and my parents are around too, which is great. But 13 and 9-year-old boys, and so it's incredibly hectic, and I have multiple personalities. They came to the opening last night, and then they love to come to the dinners afterwards.
Of course, food.
Exactly, steakhouse.
Are they getting nuggets there? Yeah, okay, good. I'm coming.
It's true. It's completely true. But it's exciting to see, and what I think has been. It's something we did that was groundbreaking. Is we have this group called ROCO Rooters.
Yes.
And it's kids 10 and under during the 5 o'clock concert on Saturday, the kids go to a different part of the church and have a music education program.
Excellent.
And then they get to come into the concert for one piece live that they've learned about. So they hear a live piece, but only one piece. And then they stay for pizza and movies until 10, so parents get a date night after the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
But they still get to appreciate the little bit of music as well.
But just what they can handle, you know? And so I say we're saving marriages one concert at a time.
And hopefully building your new audiences, right? Because if we don't replenish those audiences and, you know, instill it in them young.
Right. Well, it's because the band programs are being ripped from the schools. I think that's the biggest piece of it for me, is that you don't have a tactile remembrance of playing an instrument. I mean, when you have that remembrance in your hands and what mouth, violin, whatever, you remember the feeling, and I think there's a relationship that happens when you see the stage, as opposed to having just heard music as a child.
Interesting.
I really feel like that's the whole reason that we've had such a disconnect. People don't do it in their home, amateur-wise, anymore. Right. And when my husband and I lived abroad, we were in France, it's part of everyone's life. It's a piece of the fabric of their lives. And whether you're amateur, professional, it doesn't matter.
Right. We've talked a lot, too, especially in theater, that, you know, at American theater, it's all about entertainment. Right. And you go overseas, you know, to Europe, and again, of course, a stereotype, but they're more into issues. Is it true also that way in music as well? Is music differentiated, you know, from country to country in that sense?
Yes, it is.
Really?
It is. And, you know, a lot of the major orchestras are having to do so much pops music, which some is great. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Right. Huge Star Wars fan. But, yes, I can see that. And what's also interesting, which may be the case in theater as well, is that individual instruments, like oboe, are very different abroad. Yes, it's fascinating.
So it is different from places. It's just like theater as well. What is popular versus not popular, or what sells, unfortunately. Well,
a little bit of that, definitely. Yeah. And also, again, different styles, even just in individual playing.
Really?
Yeah, different oboe. Like, I would probably never win a job in Europe just because of the style of playing.
Interesting. Yeah. Obviously, when you go on vacation, do you also visit other musicians, other theaters?
Oh, absolutely.
Orchestras?
Absolutely. My kids, we took them to New York City this summer.
Sure.
Got to see the New York Phil and all the different shows, but a variety, which I think is really important. And that's, you know, that's how we program with ROCO. There's a huge variety of classical music. There's such a vast repertoire out there that is not performed, because chamber orchestra is its own unique animal. Yes. It is not, you know, symphonies are 100 people. Chamber orchestra is about 40, is what we are. And then chamber music is more like trios and quartets and quintets. Right. So we're that middle ground that is got just a vast repertoire of Mozart symphonies. You know, Mozart's really, those pieces are supposed to be played with a chamber orchestra. So it's been really fascinating to delve into all the music. Right.
You ever miss physics?
Yes, very much. But I make reeds, and so I have to make my own reeds in oboe. And doing that really actually required some knowledge of physics to be able to do them fast and well. Yes.
So what other things did you miss? Except physics, obviously you were on that track. Yes. And gave it up.
That's the one. Since I was in 7th grade, I wanted to be a physicist. But yeah, I realized in the labs, when you have to kind of do your lab experiments, write the paper, and then at the end you're supposed to just write what the 5% variation could be and why. Right. I would spend 3 pages writing about that. The creativity of, in Thailand, this might have happened. You know, and I realized, okay, I'm not cut out to do the physics. I need to do something creative.
What about their kids? Are they creative too?
Oh yeah, very. My younger one is a singer, and my older one he's in Scouts, and yeah, it's really fun to see them growing up. So.
And your husband he must help out in this adventure as well, right?
No, he doesn't. We actually met in high school band camp. Okay. Which is pretty funny. And we got back together at SMU, and he's now a businessman in the oil and gas industry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why we're in Houston.
So, do you have any favorite musicians?
Journey.
Really? Journey. It's 80s. Yeah, no, but I mean, no.
Journey, but well, I have to say, I've fallen in love with Anne-Marie McDermott, and yes. I mean, it's not just because she's soloing with us. I've never heard the like of someone that can. It sounds like she's composing as she's performing. Wow. It's phenomenal. I don't own any piano recordings, and I now will. Let's put it hers. I will go get all of hers because I've never heard the like of it. So the people that I play with are just so fun, like you said, fun, interesting, dynamic, And that's the people you want to hang out with and have a glass of wine with too. So
it sounds like you're a doer in that sense. That well, because when we talk to other actors and actresses, especially in community or even the professional theater, and you said you get a chance to, well, I might get to see my friends, maybe playing sports. Either you love playing sports or you'll enjoy watching it. But after, and I'm not saying it has to be one or the other, but it seems sometimes you enjoy doing it so much, and you're like, I'd rather do it than watch.
Right.
Like I enjoy playing tennis. And I enjoy watching it, but I think I'd rather just do it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Same thing with theater.
It's hard
music.
For me to sit at concerts. Yeah. It's hard. I want to be on the stage.
You're probably thinking, how would I play this differently?
Yes,
how would I interpret it differently? See,
it's not relaxing to watch a concert.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes
it's okay. We're participatory. It's a participatory sport.
It's okay. Yeah, sometimes you just say, I'm here to enjoy it. I'm not going to be critical. I'm not here to. I'm not the critic.
Find my happy space.
Find your happy space. That's right. Just let it go. But then, okay. Yeah, that might be. I might want to do that next year.
Yeah, exactly. Very funny.
All right, question we ask everyone: if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Well, heaven does exist, so that's okay.
And He will say.
Well, I always think funny you should mention that would be on my tombstone because so many things like Juilliard have happened to me in my life. But I do think that it would be nice to do the famous one of you've done well, my good and faithful servant. Mm-hmm.
You know what? We got a chamber orchestra here too, and we have a spot for an oboist. What do you think?
Oh, that's fabulous! Or maybe I'll just start one. We'll call it, I don't know, Heaven Chamber Orchestra. God's Chamber Orchestra. GoCo. There you go.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.